Or are we already on? Like, okay. Yeah, may I request all the panelists to switch on their videos once. Ridhima, would you give us a cue? As and
Yes,
when we can.
we'll just wait for another minute for a few people to trickle in, and then we can begin.
Sure. And I must thank all of you to join us pretty timely, and glad to see you all here. So just for our information, I mean, apart from the attendees who are joining us on the Zoom platform, the session is being live telecasted on three of our social media channels as well. Uh, so there would be audience joining us on those channels as well. Yeah. Arunabha, I think can begin. Yeah.
Welcome and good day to all of you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. And thank you very much for joining us today. I'm Arunabha Ghosh. I'm the CEO of the Council on Energy, Environment and Water. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this very important discussion that we're going to have as part of the, the Ministerial Thematic Forums for the High Level Dialogue on Energy, on scaling climate positive development action from the global south. Let me begin by simply stating one basic proposition. There can be no energy transition towards a cleaner future without energy access. And there can be no sustained energy access without livelihoods. And it is that intersection of energy transition, energy access, and livelihoods for incomes and jobs, especially in the vulnerable, climate vulnerable parts of the world, that we wanted to bring together as part of this session. I'm going to request my colleague Sati Jindal to share a screen so that I can walk you through our motivation behind bringing this conversation together. Next slide, please. We are having this conversation still in the middle of a once-in-a-century pandemic. And that once-in-a-century pandemic has pushed back at least 100 million people back into extreme poverty, and that number might rise as third and fourth waves of the virus continues to hit us. A bulk of those people who've been impacted are women. And yet we are in a situation where about 759 million people continue to live without access to electricity. 60% of the healthcare facilities across the world lack reliable electricity in low and middle income countries. So if we have then two options to deal with the challenges that we face. One is an option which is to simply give relief. And that, measured in one dimension, would cost the world about $200 billion a month to guarantee basic income to nearly 3 billion people living on the poverty line in 132 countries. The other option is to try and create the circumstances, the conditions, the ecosystems by which the world's vulnerable people begin to see value in a cleaner energy transition, but also use it as one of the key levers to come out of the pandemic induced depression that they are in. So the question, the strategic question before all of us is, how can we deliver jobs and growth in incomes in developing countries while living in a continuously climate constrained world? And this is where distributed, clean, renewable energy can become a game changer. Next slide, please. We have tended to relegate distributed clean energy in our policy thinking, in our discourse, to the margins of how we think about the energy future. But once we scratch beneath the surface, we realize that there is a huge opportunity that remains untapped, not because the technologies don't exist, not because the entrepreneurs don't exist, not because the capital doesn't exist, but because technologies, the entrepreneurs, and the capital have not been brought together in an ecosystem that can use distributed clean energy for powering livelihoods. To give an example, our estimation at CW suggests that in India alone, there is a $50 billion market opportunity for using clean energy innovations to drive livelihood activities in rural areas. India's solar pump program alone is worth $18 billion. In sub-Saharan Africa, distributed renewable energy-based livelihood could drive an investment of nearly $12 billion and boost incomes of, say, 12 million farmers using such technologies. An investment of, say, 380 million in power and appliances could yield a return of $4 billion in additional farm income in Ethiopia alone. These are just some of the examples of the kind of market opportunity that exists. And that is why I say there can be no energy transition without energy access, but there can be no sustained energy access unless it finds the jobs, growth, and sustainability that we all desire. Next slide, please. So today you will hear not just from analysts and policymakers, you will hear from the people on the ground driving this revolution. You will hear from entrepreneurs in India and in Africa, and you will learn about their innovations and you will learn about their challenges. And through this conversation, we hope to reimagine what climate positive development action from the global south, not just for the global, could yield lessons for a very different, for a very much more just energy transition and climate action for the world as a whole. Thank you.
राम राम, मेरा नाम परमिला है। मैं उर्मुल डेयरी में 3-4 साल से काम कर रही हूँ। यहाँ बज्जू की रहने वाली हूँ। मेरी उम्र 25 साल है और जो कि यहाँ की परिस्थिति है तो यहाँ सूखा पड़ रहा है। 2 साल से बिल्कुल बारिश नहीं हो रही है, तो गायों को हरे चारे की ज़रूरत रहती है। हरा चारा नहीं मिल पा रहा है, तो मतलब गायों को हम तूड़ी खिला रहे थे। अभी हम ये हाइड्रोपोनिक शुरू किए हैं, तो इससे हम हरा चारा है जो गायों को खिला रहे हैं। तो ये 6 महीनों से हम काम कर रहे हैं। तो इसमें हमने पहले ज्वार गेहूँ भी उगाया था, अभी हम गेहूँ जौ भी उगाने वाले हैं। तो इसमें हम एक गाय को एक ट्राई में लगभग 3 किलो घास उगती थी पहले, और वो हम एक गाय को एक ट्राई खिलाते हैं। और अभी हम निकाल रहे हैं एक ट्राई से 4 किलो, जो हम एक गाय को पर डे एक ट्राई देते हैं। तो हम लगभग एक दिन में 28 से 30 किलो तक निकालते हैं। तो ये हम हरा चारा गायों को देने से गायों का स्वास्थ्य भी हमारे को अच्छा लग रहा है और दूध में भी बढ़ोतरी हो रही है। जो कि पहले 3 लीटर होता था, तो अभी 4 लीटर एक गाय का दूध आ रहा है।
Thank you. My name is Vasant, and I'm the founder of Hydrogreens. You saw one of our customers, Pramila, who lives in Rajasthan, which is one of the most dry and arid regions of the country, with annual rainfall of less than 100 mm, and happening every 2 or 3 years. It's a drought-prone area, and dairy is thankfully a very matured ecosystem in India, where small cooperatives come and pour dairy into a larger processing industry, and it is already an enterprise for millions of farmers. The challenge, however, is the shortage of green fodder in the backdrop of these extreme climates, in depleting groundwater and so on and so forth. So our innovation works on climate control with solar powered systems that can generate about 20 to 30 kgs of high protein fodder even at extreme temperatures every day. And that fodder can be fed to about 4 livestock units, or about 20 smaller ruminants. And the results are in front of you. The milk yield can increase between 12 to 37%, or about 1 to 3 liters on an absolute term. About 13 to 20% increase in weight for small ruminants, an increase in income by about USD 1 every day per cattle. There is also quantum leap of savings in water when you compare fodder growing on ground versus on the vertical farming system. And tender the fodder, lower the methane, so we are lowering the methane emissions by the cattle as well. So this entire solution is seamlessly powered by the solar technology, and our climate control systems work very seamlessly with this system. And also, when you take a larger scale deployment of this, the running costs are absolutely zero. So your production cost is the lowest that is possible, right? So this is about Hydrogreens.
My name is Samuel Gachau Kimani. I'm a Kenyan. Directly, I'm a coffee farmer. It is true. I'm the first one. It was not installed anywhere in Kenya. This is the first place where it was brought. It is working. It is working. We had been using it every day, even today. And some other neighbors from up here. This is a witness. They are witnesses of me. The ones I have told and they have seen, they decided to get this one. With this one, it was installed only digging the hole, and then it was installed. I did not use any stone. I didn't use sand. I didn't use ballast or cement. So that is the advantage and the difference between those ones and this one, and I'm happy about it.
Hakuna kazi mingi kwa sababu najua ukiweka chakula kwa jiko uweze angalia, si ni kusima tu moto ukakuta chakula imeiva, leo ukakontinue na your work. Nilikuwa na mashida mingi mbele, nikipika chakula tafuta kuni na makaa, na siku zingine nikakosa hizo makaa na kuni, lakini hii biogas inanisaidia kwa sababu hakuna kitu nisikuagi na mashida, hata mvua ukiwa unanyesha na itumia. Then it's very quick. When you are cooking, it's very quick.
If my wife is not here, I can cook by myself very easily and quick food. So that is something that is helping so much me. Men don't cook unless there's a lot of problem. But this time I can do it. There is no smoke. There is no cutting firewood, no charcoal. So it's very easy to me and I like it.
Good afternoon or evening, everyone. My name is Esther. I'm the Managing Director for Sistema Bio East Africa, based in Nairobi. You just saw a great example of the impact of our Systema Bio digester. At Systema Bio, our mission is to create value from waste. So we're able to convert animal waste into biogas to provide a clean cooking solution, and into biofertilizer to apply on any possible crop. So we're eliminating firewood, eliminating charcoal, eliminating costly LP gas, as well as chemical fertilizers, and replacing them with durable, sustainable, clean sources of energy and nutrients to contribute to improved yields in the harvest in an organic way. So we operate in East Africa. We also operate in India. Thank you to the previous presenter. I think we have a lot in common in terms of managing cattle. So far, we have installed over 20,000 of biodigesters in Latin America, East Africa, and India, impacting over 100,000 people and mitigating over 250,000 tons of CO2. This is the rough equivalent to 4 million trees that have been saved, and 335,000 hectares per year that are now fertilized in an organic manner. We believe there is a potential globally to impact over 100 million farmers, because all of them have access to waste and are basically could be empowered to create this waste to produce biogas for clean cooking and to produce biofertilizer. At Systema Bio, we own the technology. We manufacture it in our manufacturing units in Mexico and in India. We have distributed field sales teams all over the regions we operate that meet farmers every day. We have a technical team that provides the easy installation and long-term after-sales service in order to ensure that the biodigester is fully adopted and is part of the daily life of every single farmer that we serve. That's the brief overview of Systema Bio. Thank you so much.
If we look at the rural textile production industry, the technology has not improved over decades, maybe even centuries.
India has the world's largest rural population, but many rural women are either unemployed or work in low-paid casual labor. Resham Sutra's solar-powered reeling machines increase economic productivity, whilst also improving the women's independence and quality of life.
You will find rural women making silk yarn on their thighs. This is a very painful process. Productivity is extremely low. This situation absolutely has to change. My name is Kunal. I am the co-founder of Resham Sutra. The textile production industry itself is the second biggest employer in rural India. There are more than 8 million people who are directly engaged in this industry. And then there are more than 15 million rural women in India who are underemployed or unemployed. Resham Sutra today is an organization that is totally focused on improving lives of rural silk producers and handloom weavers. Silk has an added disadvantage of being located in the remote forest parts of the country. So we make sure that the products are actually designed to work in that rural environment. We are very focused on equal opportunities for women and energy access for all. The women who use our machines are able to double their family income. And then we have also seen that in many situations, the women themselves become job creators for others in the community. They become business owners themselves, employing more people around her and thus creating more jobs. We have been active in this industry for last few years, and we have had opportunity of introducing better technology to a few thousand people. But this is still a drop in the ocean. If the challenges were totally eradicated, then I see that we would be present in every district, in every state of the country, and we would have a strong, thriving ecosystem into which any rural user could plug in as a farmer, as a yarn producer, as a weaver, and have a good, healthy job option right in the village. Change is happening. That is the best part. Yeah, I think it is picking up momentum. It is getting faster. Hopefully, it will be fast enough one day.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to introduce to you the vision of Resham Sutra. As we all know, the current industrial development model has a permanent negative impact on the environment. It also increases the social and financial disparities. At Resham Sutra, we are promoting an inclusive and sustainable model of development, one in which people don't go to the large factories, but the factory comes to the people. Turning this industrial model on its head gives us the opportunity to innovate and find better solutions in every area. Modern technology allows us to be more energy efficient and use renewable power. Distributed ownership allows us more equitable distribution of profits. With this model, we are able to create jobs without uprooting people from their villages because they already have existing support structures in the villages. Our solar powered machines have enabled more than 12,000 families in India to earn respectable income. They are connected to our ecosystem as farmers, as yarn producers, as weavers. And there is no reason why this number cannot grow hundredfold, not just in India, but across all geographies, across the entire global south of the world. And in our products, ecological sustainability and economic viability are built right from design inception. So once we are able to design the products in such a way that they use minimal amount of energy and they can be used by people with minimum amount of training anywhere in the world. So these products become universal. We are also able to use a very practical service delivery model. We employ local youth in every geography. This also helps to create more jobs for the people. So we see this as the desirable model for a carbon-free development and economic prosperity for entire global south. So from India, we want to reach out to countries across the world that have similar problems. That's the story of Resham Sutra. Thank you.
Keep It Cool is a smart distribution company leveraging on technology and also decentralized cold chain. So we basically provide cooling as a service to fish value chain players and stakeholders in order to reduce post-harvest losses in the value chain. Our main aim at Keep It Cool is connecting supply chain, the whole supply chain, mainly mapping demand and supplying that demand with the fish from African supply chain. So on a day-to-day basis, we take orders from our agents. We have over 67 agents who take fish from us, and the next day we distribute the fish to them before midday. And we do this using our temperature-controlled facilities and technologies. And this smart distribution provides transparency and traceability of the fish back to the farms. The fishing community, as you know, has been facing a lot of challenges because of cheap imports of fish. And what we're trying to do is to give them a chance to take on the market, and by providing them a marketplace, a virtual marketplace through a B2B e-commerce platform. And we are also providing them with capability to store, that is the cold chain and the cold storages. My name is Francis, and I'm the founder of Keep It Cool, based in Kenya. As you've seen from the video, we're trying to disrupt the fish value chain, which has been underserved for the longest time, introducing decentralized cold chain, specifically around the Lake Victoria region, which is shared by 3 countries in East Africa. So far, we are working with 4 fisheries cooperatives, and we're helping them, one, by providing them with a cold chain solution, decentralized cold chain solution, partly powered by solar energy, and also the grid for those people who are in urban areas. And we're approaching this using innovative business model. We understand that cold chain is not a final solution. Market access is still an issue because it's a very fragmented value chain. We're introducing this cold chain as a service where fishermen and fish traders access this solution on a subscription basis, lowering the access barriers that exist because of the capital that is needed to buy these coolers or even access these cold logistics. So by providing these cold chain solutions, we have been able to aggregate the fish that is coming from the lake, improved the handling, improved the quality of supply to some of the retailers that we have in urban areas. Because the biggest challenge that they have been facing is that there's no consistency because of the fragmentation in the value chain. In addition to that, there is 30 to 40% post-harvest losses during the transition from the first mile to the last mile. And this solution has cut the journey by half, introduced a longer shelf life. And by doing that, we have not only increased the income for the fishermen, but also improved and reduced costs for the fish traders in urban areas. So by introducing this model, we have been able to create a complementary value proposition on the both sides of the value chain. We believe this solution can expand. So far, we are supporting over 1,000 retailers in Kenya for fish, and about 600 fishermen in rural areas in Kenya. And we believe this not only creates jobs, but also is improving the social impact, the socioeconomic situation for most Kenyans and East Africans in general. This is a solution that, of course, can be used and can be replicated in most developing countries because infrastructure still remains a challenge. And we believe that we can create, we can extend this opportunity to other countries and create more jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. And a very good evening, morning, and afternoon to everyone. I'm Abhishek Jain from the Council on Energy, Environment and Water. And I must first thank Francis, Esther, Kunal, and Vasant for sharing your own stories and the impact that you are creating on the ground. And to be honest, these are just some of the many, many stories out there like these. Within India, we have encountered 100 odd such companies who are working day in, day out, leveraging clean energy, leveraging renewables in helping, in supporting income generation for thousands and hundreds and thousands of families across the nation. And there are many such in sub-Saharan Africa as well. But as we look beyond these individual enterprises, there are also an ecosystem of support that is slowly emerging over the last few years. And here, we just point your attention to some of the key global efforts that have started or have supported such initiatives in the recent years. Powering agriculture is one such, which was supported by the German government along with Sweden, Norway, British government, and so on and so forth. In fact, even US aid. And there is another such partnership where various multilateral countries have come together, again, various European countries anchored by the German government. The water energy food program is, in fact, in some ways is what I would call a next step over and beyond powering agriculture, which is trying to mainstream clean energy for agriculture as well as looking at the nexus of water, energy, and food, and then powering livelihoods, which is an initiative by CW and Will Grow, again supported by multiple philanthropics coming together along with the British government. And these are again some of the many examples. There is a major program called Sustain Plus being anchored by Selco Foundation and supported by ICA Foundation and Tata Trust. There is a recent initiative called Powering Healthcare, which has been supported by USAID and anchored by SU for All. And the one underlying theme or message that I see coming from all these examples is the potential of partnerships. None of this is happening by a single individual, organization, or an entity. Multiple countries, multiple kinds of partners, from philanthropic to donor community to incubators and accelerators, coming together to mainstream and support mainstreaming of these solutions on the ground. Now, as we move forward into the panel discussion, and I invite my esteemed panelist today joining us, we would be focusing on how we take these individual enterprises, individual examples of hundreds of entrepreneurs out there, and really convert them into a scale which is responding to the need that we are seeing in front of us. There are millions of households and millions of enterprises, micro enterprises, and livelihoods in the rural areas across the developing world need these solutions to improve their incomes, to be more resilient in a climate constrained world. And with that, let me invite the panelists who are joining us today. I'll start with Mr. Dinesh Jagdale. Mr. Jagdale is the Joint Secretary from the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, Government of India. And in his role, he wears multiple hats. He looks after bioenergy mission from the government side. He is looking after the international relationships from the ministry and ministry side. And he's looking after the research and development across solar, wind, and bioenergy, to name a few of his responsibilities. I'm sure he does many more things. And one thing that I can personally vouch for, he is super passionate about renewable energy and has more than 25 years of work experience in the space. Thank you, Mr. Jagdale, joining us. Next, I will introduce Tanya Kothari. Tanya is the manager at Shell Foundation, where she leads research and advocacy for the foundation. In the past, she has also led gender inclusion among energy programs for Shell Foundation. And she comes with about 7 to 8 years of work experience and has an undergrad from Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee. Finally, let me introduce our third panelist, Professor Yao, who actually wears multiple hats. Professor Yao is one of those few who I have come across who have straddled both the world of academics as well as the world of entrepreneurship. He is currently the CEO of KYA Energy Group, which is a group consisting of 4 different business entities. But in his past life, he has also been a professor and a professor at multiple institutions within Africa, and has more than 20 years of experience as an entrepreneur, as a researcher, as an academician in the solar and renewable energy space. Our fourth panelist, unfortunately, couldn't join us, McBen McKenzie. He sort of got caught with some medical emergency at his end and had got a severe throat infection, because of which he would not be joining us today. We'll, of course, miss his perspective on a very important program powering agriculture that I was mentioning, but we wish him all the good health and quick recovery. With that, let me start the conversation. And let me start the conversation with Mr. Jagdale. I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, sir. So, Mr. Jagdale, I think what would be really interesting to hear in the recent months, especially as India was struggling through the first wave and is now still fighting through the second wave of COVID, we saw a lot of activity within the government to respond to some of these crises, etc. But we also saw that Ministry of New and Renewable Energy came up with this new policy, which is right now at the draft stage, but hopefully I think soon will be coming out as the formal policy as well. A policy which is focusing on how to leverage distributed renewables for livelihood, for income generating activities. And what would be really great to hear from you is a little bit of the backstory. Like, why do you think, or how do you think that the ministry got interested in this? And if you could share those perspectives with us.
Thanks, Abhishek, and a very good evening to all. Greetings from India. On behalf of the ministry, I think this has been the discussion point about powering livelihoods and the livelihood programs has been a discussion within ministry during this recent months, and personally got involved in this, and I'm sure Abhishek was a part of such discussions quite often. Before I actually come to your point, Abhishek, let me also congratulate the entrepreneurs that you are showing today, and the discussion and the journey that they've shown about their the value that they brought through innovation to meet the end challenges of the consumer or the beneficiary, which actually tried to resolve the current issue and bring a point of livelihood in their lives. I think I should congratulate all of you because these are bold steps, and this is what I think the entire world requires to bring in that amount of urgency to bring innovation to meet the end user's requirement. With this, the team is aware that the ministry and the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, since very beginning, before actually it came into, it was named as Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, started with a department. And the prime intention of this particular department and the ministry was to really harness the amount of renewable energy that lies within the resources that are available within the country. And you remember that the oldest program of this country is biogas. For the last 40 years, we have been consistently working and promoting biogas to meet the end user's requirement. And I see, and I head the biogas program, and I can vouch and tell that the amount of importance that it brings into the farmer or the beneficiary. And nowadays, I think we are moving from that concept of rural, semi-urban and urban, and even in a metro or in a cosmopolitan city, I think systems like what Systema Biotech are giving can be installed in the backyard or in the gallery, and then you can still generate biogas. So this is the ministry's thought process has always been to meet the end user's need. But over a period of time, as we went on growing, I think the technologies of wind, solar came into existence. But the biogas and biomass or the waste to energy program didn't lose that focus. Now, coming back to the point on which you made about what happened during these times, and obviously you remember our first story about we believe that the biggest impact and the strongest impact of renewable energy programs would be in the way the distributed nature of it is, whether it's wind or whether it's solar. Maybe wind less, but more of solar, biogas, biomass, that brings a lot of value. And therefore, notwithstanding to the case studies that we had previously, we thought that it is necessary with the advantage of technological development, with the advantage of having the cost reduction and coming with new age materials that can really resolve the problem at hand, bringing down the value of the end product to meet the requirements of the consumer. That all enabled us to really think about what can we do. And it was from a livelihood perspective, not just as a promotion of a program or a technology. We were all thinking about how this, the renewable energy aspect will bring in a livelihood to a person who is maybe is in a rural area or a semi-urban area. And that is where I think we started discussing on this. There were several stakeholder consultations while we were doing, and obviously this pandemic came in, and that also had a huge impact, and that also triggered, obviously, post-pandemic, and we are still to come out of that. Most of the countries have to come out of that impact. And this is where I think this concepts of livelihood, getting the energy to the end user or making it, producing it locally and helping an entrepreneur or an end user to make some livelihood out of it. We started with solar cooking, as you're aware. We wanted to bring in induction cook stoves, and that was our philosophy. And then we started with stacked supplies of fuel to cook. But then we thought of, why not let us try and see what else we can do. And that is where I think our cross-functional discussions went on. And today, when we list down those whole list of applications, and when I see today in the screen with several applications already put to use, I think the joy of seeing this is much more relevant. And that will also encourage government and people like us sitting here to really come out very fast and bring in such innovative policies. To name a few, I think I have a list of indicative list of DRE products. It starts from cold storage, and you have shown the panelists shown the ability of what it can really bring to a livelihood about solar dryers, about cold storages, rice milling, mill set, pulses processing, horticulture produce processing, vertical farming, and so on. The list goes on. And obviously textile. You said about the silk reeling, silk recycling, spinning, and all the other benefits that it gives. We, along with our ministries and our sister ministries, such as the Rural Development, the Tribal Affairs, Ministry of Textile, Ministry of Agriculture, and they are all supporting livelihood programs in the way, in the form and fashion that they provide. But it is necessary for us to now converge and get into a fold of action where we can leverage on the expertise of each other, each ministries, and try to bring a holistic solution. This effort is that we have issued a draft, and I'm sure with some due consultations forward, we will be able to get some very innovative livelihood program that can be powered through renewable energy. Hope I have answered your question, Abhishek.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jagdale. I mean, you've answered it actually very beautifully, and if I have to really pick two things out of what you said, which really stuck with me, is one, how to ensure that we are always being people-centric, ensuring that we are solving people's problem. And second, the point that you brought in around convergence, that this is not just about renewable energy. This is ultimately about livelihoods, and how do you bring along other departments, other ministries. I think there's a lesson here for the global community who has joined us today to actually keep that in mind as we mainstream renewable energy for livelihoods or other development efforts. I'll come back to you in a few minutes. Let me turn my attention now to Tanya. Tanya, let me just simply begin with, I mean, the overall theme within which we are discussing, having this conversation today is how do we align really climate and development action or climate positive development, if I may say. So let us start with just your take that how SF looks at climate positive development. I mean, SF been supporting energy access space, I know, for well over a decade now, and has really played an important role in creating many ecosystems across the world on energy access. So how do you and SF sees the climate positive development, so to say? Yeah.
Thank you, Abhishek, and hello, everyone. It's great to be here on this panel. So I think for Shell Foundation, actually, Dr. Arunabha said it perfectly. There can be no energy transition without energy access. So that I think resonates with the way we work completely. And all the examples given by the entrepreneurs just now actually showed real examples of what climate positive development is. Since at Shell Foundation, our key goal is clean energy access, which contributes to poverty alleviation. I think those examples completely resonate with the way we would define it. One of the recent research pieces that we published with research done by Catalyst Off Grid, we've seen what the business as usual scenario means for energy access. So if we continue to focus on energy access as is being done right now, 31% of African households will still be unelectrified by 2030. So we will not be able to achieve SDG 7. And due to the lack of clean and reliable energy that businesses need, they will still continue to rely on diesel gensets that we know are prevalent. So we look at climate positive development as focusing on a low carbon pathway where we support scale up of these DRE technologies that we have just seen examples of, and we help them to scale and to help us avert more than 600 million tons of carbon emissions just in Africa alone. Like this is just quoting from the research some figures. And the market opportunity for this in Africa alone is $200 billion, which is huge for investors who are climate first, who are focusing on climate, and who need to now also start looking at how clean and decentralized energy can power both livelihoods and also contribute to the climate agenda. Additionally, as we have seen, all of these technologies and all of these entrepreneurs are contributing tremendously to building building higher incomes for various communities and also for building their resilience. So they are also helping them, helping those who are the most vulnerable to the impact of climate change. That I think completely shows us the picture of what the impact of these solutions can be from a climate positive perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Tanya. Let me just also ask you one more question. I know based on, in fact, some of our conversations and conversations with other colleagues, that there is a massive initiative or a facility that is under the works and hopefully should be out in the public soon. And maybe this is one of the few forums where I can bring it up publicly as well, where I know that Shell Foundation, along with IKEA Foundation as well as Rabobank, has been putting together a financing facility primarily focused on smallholder farmers and improving their incomes through the technological interventions, including those of distributed renewable energy. And I know it's a significant facility, so why don't you talk a little bit about it and how have you gone about bringing these partners together, again, highlighting the role of partnerships and what would this facility is going to do. So yeah, Tanya, back to you.
Thanks, Abhishek. So as you said, this is in works, but hopefully we should be able to launch it and announce it quite soon in the coming few weeks, actually. We've called this the COVID-19 Response Fund for Agri Transition in India. So it is a result of 8 different organizations actually coming together and getting aligned. And this was, I think, catalyzed by the pandemic. So one of the things that we saw as urgent or as an urgent response to the pandemic for the agriculture sector. So one of the biggest challenges that we generally see in the agriculture sector is, especially for FPOs as well as farmer producer organizations, as well as early stage companies with innovation supporting farmers, is lack of debt or working capital that they need to be able to scale up their operations if they're doing well, or to sustain their operations in a reliable way. So the pandemic obviously worsened the situation for a lot of these companies and made accessing capital even more challenging, and hence the urgency to set this up. So the structure of this fund is such that through the participation of the 3 foundations that you mentioned, Shell Foundation, IKEA Foundation, and Rabo Foundation, we are able to reduce the risk for USDFC, which is US Development Finance Institute, and hence they are able to provide a 50% guarantee to 3 lenders in India, which would then enable these 3 lenders to lend about $55 million over the next 8 years. So hence it is a large scale facility. So we hope the impact is large, and it is able to lend to around 180 or so enterprises, as well as enterprises including startups and farmer producer organizations. Our goal with this facility is, again, climate positive development. So we are hoping to bring about an agri transition to more sustainable models and to more sustainable farming. So the kind of solutions this facility will support will be focusing on food loss, on clean energy access for agriculture, such as solar irrigation, cold storage, etc., and other agri-tech solutions that can reduce costs for these models through digitalization, as well as smallholder farmers through FPOs. So this will cater to all of these organizations' working capital needs. Now, this is a hugely impactful structure also because there is no foreign exchange risk involved for DFC, and that is why they were able to participate in this facility. And we hope that this is not a one-off structure. We hope that this catalyzes the rest of the financiers and other funders in the sector, including public sector lenders in India, to put in more funding into the sector and reduce their risk perception. So we hope to be able to publish enough evidence and data for the sector to show them the potential of all of these innovative models and of FPOs on their scale, on their impact, and on their financial viability. So yeah, so this was basically an overview about the facility.
Yeah. No, thanks, Anya. I think this is quite exciting. $55 million facility opening up primarily for smallholder farmers, essentially supporting enterprises working for them and FPOs. Really exciting. And I think one theme which is emerging from what you said is really like philanthropies are supporting various development sectors, but how do we really multiply the impact of whatever philanthropy can put in by actually leveraging that capital and unlocking far significant and larger private or development finance capital is a great way to see how we are leveraging a limited and very precious philanthropic money. Thank you for talking about it. I'll come back to you again in a few minutes. Let me now turn my attention to our friend Professor Yao from Togo. Professor Yao, I hope you are still connected with us. If you could just switch on your video, that would be great. Yeah, so Professor Yao, let us talk a little bit about KYA Energy, and particularly, I think I know that as part of the powering healthcare support that USAID has provided to various African countries to energize the healthcare facilities, and we know the role of healthcare right now, given the pandemic that we are all facing collectively. Why don't you talk a little bit about how this has come about, your own experience as part of working with this facility, and what you're trying to do on the ground to ensure that this effort of energizing healthcare facilities through solar is becoming a sustainable one.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. In Togo and like many developing countries, you know that our population are more in rural area. They are living more in rural areas. Like here in Togo, we have 7% of the population who are living in rural areas. So when it comes to healthcare issue, it is a big one in our countries. We have many rural health centers who are lacking of energy. And when we are talking about lack of electricity in this area, we are talking about also leaves. So we have many problems linked to women who could not give easily birth, and we have many people who are ill, but there's no way to have good health care. And this is at the head of the fight against COVID-19 in our country, actually. So we have starting working on how to provide, a solar system for productive use in our country, mainly targeting health centers. So we're able to have from USAID last year a grant to electrify 20 rural health centers, but with as a view on their sustainability, because it is very important to have the solar system to electrify these health centers, but it is very paramount to make sure that the system will be sustainable along with the time. So what we have done is provide the system with some equipment that will help them having new revenue. To make it clear, we have provided these health centers with phone charging tables. So in these villages, people don't have access to electricity. So to charge their phones, which has become today a very important tool for them, even to do money transfer. We have many mobile transfer in our country. So they can offer charging services to the patients and also to the visitors of the health centers. They could have like per day, like 30 phones to be charged, and which is giving them $6 per day, which is huge when it is rural areas. We guarantee our solar cabinet, because the solar cabinet is something we have designed here, assembled locally to fit the local needs. And with a 5-year guarantee, they are able to collect necessary money to pay technician for maintenance, okay? And also if it comes to replace, for instance, the batteries or any other equipment like inverters, after 5 years, they have enough money to replace this equipment easily. For instance, in 5-year time, they will save like $10,000, which is huge here for the replacement and for the maintenance of the system. So currently we are continuing the installation of some of them. We have finished with some, and we want to extend this example to other public health centers. The main issue is the first investment. So we are working on a business model to make sure that we can finance the first installation, because we know how to operate, how to maintain it now in a sustainable way. Now we are looking for how to invest so that we can have these rural health centers electrified. So I will stop it here for the moment, and maybe I'll be happy to ask for questions.
Great.
Thank you.
Great to hear that, Professor Yao. And I think you've touched upon a very important point, which is typically a pain point in many projects that we have seen over the decades in the development space, where the grant money comes in for the new projects to get installed. But then once the installations are done, there is no way to take care of their ongoing sustainability or operations and maintainability. So it's great to see that you have actually created a business model for these healthcare facilities to ensure that they are able to sustain these systems in an ongoing way by earning from the system itself. So I think quite an important lesson there for many of us. In fact, India has done, some of the states in India particularly have done a lot of solarization of the healthcare facilities. One of our state which is dominantly tribal, Chhattisgarh, has more than 90% of its primary health centers solarized and phenomenally maintained on an ongoing basis, though in this case through the continuous support of the public sector. The state government has been continuously supporting the systems and their maintenance. Okay, with that, let me come back to Mr. Jagdale and maybe now take the conversation from that policy which is coming in India, along with various other large-scale programs that the Indian government has been running. Particular one is on solar pumps, which I think, at least in my information, the largest program on solar pumps anywhere in the world. It's a massive program which is looking at an overall public and private sector deployment worth $18 billion going into farm power, with about a third coming from the central government as a contribution. But yeah, beyond even the public sector programs, there is a lot of activity, as we have seen, in the entrepreneurship space, in the ecosystem space that is happening in India. But I do see also a lot of possibility. How can we take some of these first mover experiences, or the pioneering experiences that India has, to the world, and sort of help maybe many other developing countries, whether through inspiration or through actual knowledge sharing, technology sharing, help them actually come along on this path. So Mr. Jagdale, maybe your thoughts on, especially as you wear the hat of international relationships also at MNRE.
Yes, Abhishek, I think it's a good point, but let me start with stating that we are on this UN side event on the lines of United Nations High-Level Energy Dialogue. And we are a global champion. And the reason for being champion is that our policies, the regulations, and the initiative that the government has taken in bringing renewable energy to a forefront for making energy transition possible. And that's why I think our biggest activity would be to now start really advocating or advocacy on what we've achieved and help countries to really start implementing, start building capacities, transfer technologies on the way we have learned. I think this is a learning that has come out and it has evolved, not fortnight or a month. It has taken its time to come out to reach to a level where we can boldly talk of solarizing the agriculture sector. Now, this is obviously has come through not a single effort. It has come through a whole gamut of efforts, including starting from policy, regulatory, supply chain, technology, R&D, and everything has come into this play. Now, when we talk of international relations, obviously the ministry has bilateral relationship with many countries. We have tie-ups and we keep on engaging, trying to help them in capacity building, technology transfers, etc. But you are aware that in 2015, our Honorable Prime Minister, along with the French President, launched the International Solar Alliance. And this Solar Alliance today, I'm pleased to state that it has more than 95 member countries. And I'm sure, I think as we move progress, there will be countries which will keep on joining and take the benefit of the initiative that India and France has taken together. And India has been very boldly taking this initiative. We want international cooperation. We want the world, and especially when we talk of the African continent, we would like to replicate in the countries there. We would like to help them to replicate the fundamental policies that we had worked on. And this ISA can be an extremely good medium where we can reach to the countries to really help them to have a smooth energy transition. Obviously, when we are talking, as some of the panelists mentioned, the population is still lacks access, still lacks electricity, and therefore technologies like solar, technologies like which are based on the biomass and other enabled technologies will play an important role, and that's where distributed renewable energy will definitely come into play. So I think we will be very keen to join hands. We have, and I'm sure we have certain examples with countries which have their bilateral programs, and we in the joint working groups take these matters and help them to build their own capacities in renewable energy. So it would be a collective effort. ISA will play a very, very important role going forward. Thank you, Abhishek.
Great. And that's really music to our ears that the government of India is clearly focusing on not just championing the cause domestically, but also internationally. And I'm sure there is a lot that we can offer to the global community, and as we co-learn together as we march forward on this one. Thank you, Mr. Jagdale. Tanya, maybe I'm also looking at the clock. Maybe this will be the final intervention where I'm inviting you to come in. Again, I think, and I was saying that, okay, you have brought 3 partners together, but you have actually brought 8 partners together. So there is a lot of partnership effort that has gone in. And I know that these actors are sort of living in different worlds altogether. I mean, some are philanthropists, some are development finance institutions, some are frontline credit dispersing NBFCs, working with enterprises. So it's a difficult place to straddle, right? I mean, where you have these different partners coming together. So maybe 1 or 2 reflections from your own experience of tying this all together, that what has really worked and how can we scale up such efforts from one of just, let's say, one first facility in India to maybe many such facilities in other parts of the world, and maybe even global level facilities, which itself can take care of many parts of the world together. So any reflections and thoughts on scaling up those efforts through the partnership itself?
So, yeah, I think it's a very good question. And I think on the part of how we managed to bring this together, despite the pandemic, despite the changes in the ways of working of all of these organizations and everybody just adjusting to that, I think the biggest factor was just agility on all sides, on all fronts, because of that sense of urgency. So an example could be FCDO, who is our partner in the energy agriculture program, quickly coming on board to support us. And then the various, like all of the different organizations, credit to everybody for this, on understanding each other's processes and trying to break those boundaries of all organizations have their own process, their own approval cycles, etc. Everybody came together to understand the operational bottlenecks quickly and to find ways of working together in a common manner. And I think the other thing was also willingness to learn from each other. So it wasn't that because like different organizations have different expertise housed within them. So we quickly understood that, and I think that again helped us work together. And I think that the primary reason was very clear objective and a very clear common intent on creating impact in the sector, which also included a focus on gender lens that was applied throughout the program. And then so I think these were the few reasons why this was able to come together so quickly with so many different organizations. I think one of the things which will definitely be needed to scale this or replicate this would be that this should not be a one-off exercise. And so there is a very conscious effort on our part to make sure that we engage the ecosystem on a regular basis, starting with the formal launch that we will be doing in a couple of months' time. Engaging the ecosystem, sharing what we learn from this, and basically the success would be when we actually manage to reduce the risk perception of the sector and to help the enterprises that are funded in this to scale. So one of the success criteria for us would be to on how much additional capital we are able to get into the sector and to these enterprises serving smallholder farmers. And so for that, we will try our best to have very, very frequent engagements and understand the reservations that other funders and other financiers might have to fund the sector.
Great. Thank you, Tana. You actually covered quite a whole lot in that very sharp intervention. I think right from agility to understanding the ways of working of each other, and yet having that common goal in sight, I think is what really made this happen. And ensuring that we are able to sort of take some of those lessons from this particular endeavor to the global scale, I think is where we need all our efforts to come together. Okay, turning it back to Professor Yao. Uh, After hearing what Indian government is willing to offer in terms of championing the cause and providing knowledge sharing, technology transfers, and whatnot, and after hearing from Tanya that hopefully we can do what we are going to, but is happening in India as part of this massive facility at a global scale by bringing again many partners together. What would be on your wish list as an entrepreneur, as an enterprise on the front line, serving communities, serving? I know that apart from healthcare facilities, you're also working a lot on productive use of renewables as well. What would be your wish list as an entrepreneur? That what do you need in order to really scale up your own efforts, your own impact? From if you're currently electrifying 20 facilities, maybe to 200 and 2,000 facilities. If you're currently energizing 10 livelihoods a month, maybe 100 and 1,000 livelihoods a month. So what is it that you need, Professor Yao? Sorry, you're on mute. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Thank you very much for the question. You know, in our side, I think we have two challenges to overcome. The first one is mainly, let's say, manpower issue.
Okay, I guess
for rural areas, we need. I hope. Hello.
Yeah, there was a bit of interruption. Now we can hear you. Please continue.
I think we are. Okay. Okay, fine. Thank you. So I was saying that we have two challenges to overcome. The first one is the local manpower. You know, in rural areas, you need to fix technician for the.
Okay, Professor Yao, we are losing you in between. Maybe switching off your video might help. Okay, I guess we may have to see if we can connect with Professor Yao again. But meanwhile, Tanya, there is a question for you. I mean, feel free to either answer it by making an intervention, or you can also type in your answer, whatever you feel is easier. There are also a few questions which have come through LinkedIn to us. I won't be able to do justice to many of them, but we'll try and answer them on the LinkedIn as we go along. I probably now also want to, I mean, looking at the clock, want to tie it all back together. And first of all, I want to thank all our panelists, all the enterprises who represented us.
Sorry, I think there is a little instability of the network. I'm very sorry. I don't know if I can quickly finish.
Yeah, if you can quickly make your point within a minute, Professor Yao, that'll be great.
So the second point is mainly the, let's say, the financial issue, how to invest for the first installation. And this is the a really issue. We have like two, ways to do that. The first one is having international donors who can pay for these health centers solarization, like USAID, for instance, as I mentioned earlier, or we have government, public, institutions who are supporting this. This is one way. The second way could be basically based on your business, fully business, to have a good business model who can attract, investors, either in terms of equity or look for debt. Loan, but the problem we are facing here, local banks loan have very high interest. So difficult to have something profitable if we are going for local loans. So definitely, I think a mix of international donors or public financing plus private, private investors through equity, for instance, could help us scaling up, this kind of projects. Thank you.
Great.
Sorry for the interruption.
No worries. Thank you, Professor Yao. I think clearly you're underscoring the need of finance and affordable finance, if I may say, which is really the key here to scale some of this up. And hopefully the kind of efforts that we are seeing being undertaken in India can be expanded globally into many more countries in sub-Saharan Africa. With that, let me try and tie it all together. First of all, thank you to all our entrepreneurs who joined us and shared their story, their own impact stories with us, and sort of started the session on a high note. I must thank all our speakers and panelists for sharing very valuable insights from your own experiences, whether it is from the Government of India perspective, whether it is philanthropy, as well as I would say development finance institutions perspective, or whether it is the perspective of an enterprise working really on the front line. And I think the core messages that I can take back from this conversation is really how do we start understanding the needs of each other and start responding to them with that common vision, that common goal of impacting millions and millions of lives and livelihoods out there, keeping the people right at the center, bringing the convergence, not just within the government departments and ministries, but convergence between these different kinds of partners out there with that common goal, that people-centric goal, and having an ambition which is in line with the response that we need to the challenge that is in front of us. So really, and I think this week we have seen an amazing news coming out on that ambition front, where IK Foundation and Rockefeller Foundation together has committed $1 billion US as philanthropic money to scale up really the ambition on sort of energy access and climate compliant energy access. So yes, I think the convergence, the support to entrepreneurs, and particularly the financing support to entrepreneurs, and ensuring that we are able to understand each other's needs and respond to it in a cohesive manner is really my takeaways. Thank you to all the audience for their patience listening, as not just here on Zoom, but also on various platforms wherever you have joined us. And Thank you to all the panelists once again. Thank you to all my colleagues who have done phenomenal work behind the scenes to make this a reality. We hope to remain in touch with all of you. The contact details of all the entrepreneurs is shared in case you wish to connect with them bilaterally. Good evening, good afternoon, and have a great rest of the day and evening. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.